Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 16U practice plan for week 1 of 10 in a series of webinars where we'll be basically walking through drill by drill every practice, and we'll also offer a chance for any coaches to ask any questions to each particular drill. We don't have any coaches on the call for this week 1, but we're hoping to in future weeks. The way to read these plans is first to look at the general notes at the beginning, and you can see any equipment that is needed for the practice is listed at the very top, and as well as some other reminders or possible suggestions for the plan. You can see that I've listed an optional 20-minute pre-practice segment to do with stick cutting and taping. This would generally be for anybody new to the game or anybody just simply interested in some tips and techniques to do with basically working the stick. And so, I mean, assuming it takes, 15, 20 minutes for the players to get dressed, these players would be arriving, roughly 45 minutes before practice. Often we see sticks that are too long, too short, hooking into the ground, and just a couple little minor tweaks with somebody who's experienced can go a long way for the success of the participant. And that's always a great kind of little thing to take care of early, as opposed to on the floor where people will be running to you saying their stick doesn't work and you're looking to be coaching. So it's not the ideal time. Also post practice, building that camaraderie, that team builder. If you have the time and the resources and, the setting is right, which probably now with COVID it isn't, but some sort of barbecue at the end of the first practice where people can kind of hang out informally, get to know each other a bit more and create that kind of family environment. So maybe another, half hour, 45 minutes after practice, somebody firing up the barbecue ahead of time and the players can get undressed and kind of step right into it. Few other reminders. So this first practice, the main theme is basic stick work and goaltending. All of the fundamentals will essentially be touched upon here. So one of the reminders is that there's 4 phases to any movement. So there's the preparatory phase, the force production phase, the critical instant, and the follow through on any movement that they do. And just to give you an example, if it was throwing, so the preparatory movements would be loading up, reaching your arms back, bringing your feet or your weight to your back foot. Force producing movements is the transfer from the back foot to the front foot, the rotation of the hips and torso, and the critical instant becomes the release point of the ball, where the ball comes out of the stick. Generally with passing and catching, we want it coming out by the ear. If they're hanging on for it for too long in the critical instant, it's probably going to go down into the ground. And if it comes out too far behind their head, it's going to go higher up into the ground. And lastly is the follow through, is that actual follow through motion and pointing at the target, where some people may stop short here at the critical instant and not be doing the follow through. So one way to look at that is who in the group has problems in their mechanics and what stage or phase of the movement is the problem, and perhaps pulling everybody aside who has a problem with a certain phase of a movement is an ad lib you might have to make within these plans. So these plans are suggested guidelines to follow. If you really want to do your homework ahead of time, you can take a look at these skill analysis pieces to really go in depth here. You can see on each of the fundamentals, the warm up, static stretching, and all of those particulars going into the practice. So you have the right cues to teach the main movements within these drills. If you look in the top left corner here, you can see the practice is listed for 90 minutes. I know some of you will be doing 60-minute practices as well. So if that's the case, I would suggest for this practice cutting out drills 5, 7, 8, and 14. And that will put you in that 60-minute range. So getting right into it, you can see the drill number is listed in the top left corner of the thumbnail here, as well as the suggested time for the drill. In the first couple drills here, we're going to be taking the goalie aside for between 15 and 30 minutes, depending on how long your practice is. And so the time is listed here. We don't list the time up here for the drills that's running simultaneous to these goaltending drills. Those times will be listed right in the title of each drill. You can see here, this follow the stick drill, 3 minutes with a 1 minute demo. And so it will all add up to the same amount of time that you do with your goaltending drills running simultaneously here. But starting at the very beginning, pulling everybody into center floor, kind of, centering everyone, explain the importance of the circle. Things tend to work in circles, especially in the Indigenous worldview. And that's something that we really want to bring to the forefront at the start of the first practice, beginning with the land acknowledgement, whether it's Mi'kmaq territory or Maliseet territory in this case. And, certainly some coach introductions as well, but, primarily focused on the history of the game. And, if you don't know that history, do a little bit of research, but it's got a rich history, and talking about any of the particulars that stand out to you, that would be enlightening for the group. So first, 3-4 minutes or whatever, 5 minutes of just kind of circling up at center and, talking even a little bit about the direction of where things are headed. Getting into working with the goalies. So essentially in one end, you would have goalie drills happening with one coach or more. And then in the other end, you'll see that there'll be a simultaneous drill that's happening at all times. So in this particular drill, we are putting the goalies in the net and giving a demo on goaltending. And I would suggest you look at the fundamental skill analysis listed, well, not actually listed in this plan. So I will add that to the plan when you get it sent out. But basic things like stance, rebound control, basic movements in the net, all of that is going to come out in this drill. And what you're going to do is you're going to start by shooting at the goalie and telling them what corner you're going to shoot at, maybe 5 or so shots to each corner from different angles around the perimeter. And getting the goalies to get a feel for where they are in the net. So touching the posts each time, being square in the net, and coming out to the shooter from there. Moving around to different angles from, say, starting right in front, moving over to the shooter spots to the side. Again, different angles, shooting on the goalie. You can start to introduce the trap and scoop on any rebounds in front. I wouldn't suggest you do that in the first variation, getting them thinking about too much more than actually the basics of their stance, positioning, and basic, shoulder blocks and kind of leg movements in the net for covering the net, dragging their stick as they move, not lifting it up off the ground. So those are some considerations. You can even miss the net on purpose sometimes, kind of like what's going on in this bottom diagram. Throw it off the glass. It'll hit the back of the net and kind of be bouncing somewhere behind the net. And that's, we want goalies kind of being aggressive for loose balls around the crease ultimately. And it's a bit of an art of knowing when to go and when not to go. But, as you get going, depending on how much time you have with the goalies, you can mix that in as a nice variation as well. And of course, if you do have enough coaches on site, mixing in a second shooter and a little bit of side to side ball movement, and really getting the goalie to step from one side of the crease across to the other side of the crease as the ball moves, and kind of getting a sense for how far those steps are, and and when can they reset in the net and find their posts and then get back out on the shooter. So that's kind of what you're up to for the majority of the time with the goalies. And while that's going on, we are starting pretty much from square one with the players. And so the first thing is the athletic position. And so what is the athletic position? It's, standing with your head up, chest up, a bit wider of a stance, knees and bent in like a quarter squat position. And so if somebody was to bump into you, you have a stable base. And so just kind of teaching that to everybody, teaching them about how to hold the stick, keeping it up and as much as possible as a good habit defensively. And so we always start with defense And kind of the evolution is defense through picking up the ball when it becomes loose, through cradling it to open space and protecting it, to bringing your stick up and either passing or shooting, and then catching. So that's kind of going to be the order of operations you'll see as we move forward here. And the first drill after we taught them the athletic position and holding the stick is just the follow the stick drill. We're going to do it for about 30, 45 seconds, roughly the length of a shift in a game. And for anybody who hasn't played yet, that would be something to give them an idea of how they would feel at the end of the shift, how long it would roughly take after you play defense, play offense, and get off, or vice versa sometimes. So yeah, so side to side is a side shuffle, getting nice and low, not crossing our feet in the middle as we're moving from side to side. Backpedaling when we point backwards, and coming forward as well, kind of running with that low stable base, something like running back in football. So that's pretty much it. 2 reps through, get them to sprint it out maybe to center, and then reset back in the end here and go from there. So moving on is, again, you would pick up the ball after you played some good defense. So we're going to work through the fundamentals, typically in static to dynamic fashion. So you can see up here in this top diagram, we have everybody kind of spread out, nobody within arm's length, and everybody has a ball in front of them. And we're working on what I would consider the 4 basic techniques in picking up the ball. So obviously, if you're in the open floor, nobody's around you, you want to just scoop the ball all in one action, and that's a basic scoop. When you're in traffic, or there's a bit of a scrum for a ball or whatever it is, often reaching in, putting the back of your stick on the ball, pulling it towards you, and then scooping it can be an effective way to kind of pull the ball out of a scrum. And the next thing you should do after you scoop the ball in any respect is to tuck it in and turn to daylight and out of the traffic, essentially. And when you do that, the last action is to bring it up into the triple threat position, looking up the floor to see if you can, what we would typically call headman the ball, or moving the ball forward up the floor. So 4 different styles of loose ball here, practicing each of them relatively stationary in front of you. Some people will have trouble just scooping the ball and all in one motion, bringing it up over their head without the ball falling out. So a good little practice, about 3 to 5 reps of each. And then what we want to do is we want to back them up from the ball, as you can see down here, and have them run onto the ball, taking 5 meters and then performing each of the said actions again. So we would demo all of those in the very beginning, maybe 1 at a time, or 1 or 2 at a time. So maybe scoop and trap and scoop first, scoop, tuck and turn, and scoop to triple threat second. So that's kind of it for that drill. You can see 3 minutes for the dynamic loose ball. We have 2 minutes for the 4 different techniques stationary, as well as 1 minute demo. So roughly 6 minutes for this one, give or take. Next step here is to make the ball more dynamic itself. And so getting them to partner up roughly 10 to 15 meters apart from each other. One partner rolls the ball to the other, and the idea is to attack the ball and also keep it in front of you. So, if I reach with my arms like this for a loose ball that's off to my side, it's kind of a risky play, because if I miss it, it's an all or none. And so what we really want to do when we go onto loose balls is to run straight onto them. And that's what I mean by keeping it in front of you. And that way, especially if it's bouncing and you miss it, it's going to hit your body and still be in front of you if you miss it. And then you're going to have a second opportunity in some cases to pick it up, which is a good habit. And the attacking the ball part is about not waiting for the ball to get to you. We really want to be desperate for those loose balls. And we want to, if you wait for it, somebody's going to cut you off and cut in front of you and take that ball. So we really want to pursue loose balls with vigor ultimately. So you can see 1 minute demoing there, 2 minutes rolling the ball back and forth with partners, and really emphasizing, again, keeping it in front of you and attacking the ball. So from there, what we do is in this practice is since they're already in pairs, we're going to just get into partner passing. First thing might be to give them a demo on soft hands and the catching aspect of this. So, I like to use the catching an egg example here. And with the catching an egg example, I just take a ball, I lob it to a volunteer who doesn't have a stick in their hands. And I say, I asked the group, would that egg have splattered on them if it was an egg? And so they, either stab it with their hands, in which case it would explode, or they have that nice soft cushion and give as they catch the ball. And so that would be what we're after. It's that soft hand, similar to corralling a puck from a pass in hockey. And that's what we want to be doing when we're catching the ball. Passing too, we can go over the technique of passing again. This is listed in the intro notes, but essentially we have players partnered up about 5 to 10 meters apart. One for beginners, if they are truly beginners, just taking the ball with your bare hand, underhand passing it to your partner, and them having essentially a perfect pass to try to catch and use that soft hands, and catching it up here over the shoulder is what we want to have happen. So progressively moving further and further away to eventually the players taking like a short run forward and making a bit longer of a pass. So just, progressively further away, doing this for, 3-4 minutes total in terms of the passing and catching piece. Next, we go into a board shuttle. So this is one of the ones that you could cut out, is these two shuttles here, just for timing's sake, if you are at 60 minutes, but having a line here, one ball, have a coach here ready with balls in case they miss, but just passing it against the glass, trying to hit a pane of glass that's been designated, and the person behind you scoops that ball. So it's kind of a little bit of loose balls and passing all in the same breath. And working through this, you can add a little bit of competition here, one line versus the other. How many catches in a row do you get? But the idea here is lots of reps, and of course, be ready with balls here. If a ball scatters and goes running away, we don't need that person running all the way across the floor while everybody waits for them to come back with a ball. So I always say for coaches, be ready with at least 3 balls at all times, and have a coach kind of overseeing this, ready, shagging balls to keep high reps going in terms of this basic shuttle. So a few more minutes there, and then we have basically a classic line shuttle here, where players are across from each other, roughly 15, maybe 20 meters apart, and starting with loose balls. So it's that same thing we did with partners of rolling the ball back and forth, but ultimately we are first just scooping the ball. So send it over, attack the ball, scoop, and send it to the next person. And we're just back and forth, back and forth. Next is the trap and scoop. So it's going to be the ball starting with a stationary placement in the middle. Player runs onto the ball, puts the back of their stick on it, pulls it in towards them, scoops it up, kind of runs to open space somewhere, puts it back down, and then runs to the back of the line. And so the next person does the same thing, runs out, puts the back of their stick on the ball, trap and scoop, put it back down in a new spot, and then the next person, and so on and so forth. Moving then into one up, one down, which is basically one person rolls it to the other side, that person attacks it and passes it back. So essentially one side of the shuttle is passing, other side of the shuttle is basically receiving a pass and then rolling a loose ball in this case. So then to a straight passing shuttle. So just pass, 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 again, trying to get as many passes in a row without dropping the ball. These are nice activities for keeping the legs moving, keeping everybody warmed up, and that leads well into a dynamic stretch where you should have basically a bit of a sweat going on already. So these dynamic movements are again listed in the notes at the very beginning. If you need an idea of what to run, usually I say get every muscle group at least once. And a dynamic stretch is not holding stretches. That's static stretching. We do that at the end to work on flexibility. This is more just a once over, once through the range of motion and back in a slow, controlled manner to essentially just loosen up the muscle just a little bit, but not kind of overstretching it, if you will, which is proven to actually reduce power output and therefore potential for success, let's say in a game environment or in a competitive environment. So get our dynamic stretches done. Next, we're going to get into partner passing. So starting on the sides of the creases here, perhaps you want to draw a diagram to show, but basically working our way up the floor, first on our wrong floor side. So our wrong floor side is with our sticks to the outside here. So if these were all lefties, as if they were a left winger in hockey, and these were righties over here, their sticks would be to the outside and actually leading in front of them as they run, which is an easier pass to catch and why we do it that way. Generally, we would want to be on our proper floor side, which is our sticks to the middle. So lefties over here, righties over here in the majority of drills that we do. But that's a tougher pass where your stick is trailing behind you as you're running. And to make that pass as you're running, you would literally have to open your hips and make it and then continue running all in one motion without stopping, no side shuffling. But yeah, we start with you on your wrong floor side. And then what we would like to have happen here is a shot where the last person with the ball here as they approach the net does get to kind of their proper floor side or in the middle at the very least, and take a shot on the goalie now. So let's warm the goalie up with the first couple shots. Is always nice. Don't try to light them up. So the goal is just to hit them for the first couple. And make sure we space each other out here. I wouldn't be sending the next group until the first group is kind of at this restraining line here. So keep that in mind too for the spacing so the goalies don't get bombarded with shots. Also having coaches ready with balls. You can see there's a coach just floating here in the middle, but you know, whenever somebody misses a pass, flipping them a ball and, you know, having things continue to flow much better that way is usually helpful. Instead of people exiting and re-entering the drill with balls and screwing up the timing, and we got two people shooting on the goalie at the same time. So the idea here is to start slow and to basically build up your speed as you go. And as I said, no side shuffling, and you really may have to take something off of this pass. And you know, sometimes you'll see people rifling balls at each other from so close, and there's an art to throwing a softer pass at like 50-75% in some cases. From there, we are getting into basically making moves or cradling, protecting the ball as well, but running through a series of cones. You can see a zigzag formation on this side, a straight line on this side. Feel free to mix it up, but working on what I would consider the three basic moves in lacrosse. So we can demo those out at the beginning, but those are the hitch step or juke, where you kind of fake one way, go the other way. Usually if it's a hitch step, it's faking to the side away from your stick. So if I was a lefty, it'd be a jab step to the right and then go left. And you would do that the whole way through the cones, all the way down, take a shot on net in the other end, and then rejoin the line over here. Of course, you can see nobody is differentiated between lefts and rights here. So this could be a righty coming in on their proper floor side. Perfect. Take a shot, a good high quality shot in that respect, usually inside of 45 degrees from the post. This person's kind of on the cusp. If you had that kind of space in the game, you really would want to get right into the middle here. But if they were a lefty, you would want them to kind of turn this corner and really gain ground over onto their proper floor side, and then taking a shot somewhere in over here. A face dodge is just taking the ball from the triple threat position and pulling it across your body and then bringing it back up here. So that's what you would do running through the cones as well in maybe the second time through. And then the third time through is roll dodges. You can do them right, you can do them left. And in the end, you can do a combination of all three of these things. Moving through the cones is good. During the demo, or perhaps after the demo, having the players practice each of these moves while standing still or with a short run is a good way to get them to have a feel for it, as opposed to just running straight through the whole time, having not practiced it yet. So just practice your face dodge while you're standing still, just bringing the ball from the triple threat across your face and back. And that's why they call it a face dodge. The inside of your stick is facing towards you as you pull it across your body, keeping it nice and tight. Even when you roll, you want to keep the ball nice and tight to your body. So that's pretty much it for cradling and dodging around cones, which is the name of this drill. We're going to get into some more defensive footwork here in the next drill. First is just what we would call drop stepping. So the defender is actually facing this way up floor, and they are doing a couple side shuffles this way and then opening their hips kind of 45 degrees and doing a couple steps that way, a couple steps this way, a couple steps that way, all the way down the floor. No ball here, as you can see. And we can talk about, getting low on that back pedal, making sure we don't cross our feet when we side shuffle, and having a nice drop step, as I mentioned. So from there, we are going to add a ball carrier, and they can be making some of these moves that we practiced in the last practice there. And so the coach sends two players at a time. One's in defensive position, kind of a little bit in front of this player. The ball carrier is moving, very slow, jogging pace, and just kind of making some basic moves as the defender keeps them in front of them and uses their footwork that they just learned in this other variation of the drill here to basically keep their check in front of them. As they approach the net, the defender just kind of bows out and allows the offensive player to take a shot. Both players then line up in the opposite corner, and of course, switching roles, what they had done on the previous shift. So we can build up the intensity. We can work up to about 90% speed, but it's more for the D player. It's not about the offensive player trying to blow past somebody in the open floor. So really just defender staying balanced, keeping the person in front of them, keeping their stick up, and you might have to give them the odd push, although we haven't really talked about cross-checking, stick checking, and things at this particular point. And then lastly, we're going to get into talking about how to finish in front. So here it's just been lots of shots on the net and whatnot, but here we're just literally starting them right on top of the crease and telling them how to score a goal in lacrosse. And so the goalie's obviously going to hear this and probably start with the goalies out for the first time through. But what you want to do is start 45 degrees off of the post, 1 or 2 steps back from the crease, literally take a giant step across the crease and try to shoot the ball off the far post and in. And that's usually the best way to score a goal in lacrosse. So we want to kind of reiterate that point. You can, eventually you can add a fake series to this, and you can practice. We'd call it like a fake short side and then shoot at far side. So what is a fake? A fake is your stick's in the triple threat position. It's a quarter turn of the top hand. It's literally just a little snap, turning the stick over slightly, making it look like you're going to shoot. You can add some body movement there and then reach to the far side and make that shot and try to put it in. So yeah, there's all kinds of different fake series for anybody who's more advanced for any of these drills. I mean, they might be allowed to do a different fake series, a fake far side, and then come back to the short side, or fake short side, fake far side, and come back short, especially when you have the goalies back in the net and they kind of know what's coming. We can suggest people mix it up and try to read the goalie's body language and, generally have the idea to shoot far side. But if they're giving you a ton of space on the short side, you might want to keep them honest and shoot there as well. And those are the decisions you need to make quickly in front of the net when you take a peek and see where the goalie's standing. What we finish off here is with a fun activity. I think both of these are pretty fun. And, we really do want it to be fun as a theme, kind of, especially early on here, and get everybody engaged. So finish with a fun little breakaway competition here. There is some learning in this as well. So I mean, you could go lefts and rights here. The learning is the banana curl. So we never want to run straight on the goalie in a breakaway if we have time. Of course, there's breakaways in a game where you don't have time, but if you do have the time, you kind of want to make this kind of gradual curl towards your proper floor side where you have a lot of space coming in on the net, where if I'm on my proper floor side here and I'm standing right here, I could shoot short side, I could come across the net far side. I have a lot more options. But if a righty was to come in right here with their stick to the outside and they're like running on their wrong side, their stick, they really only have this side of the net to shoot on. So that's why we're really big on angles and approaches to the net when we have the opportunity to have a high quality scoring opportunity in lacrosse. And here in this game, it's just a team competition, lefties versus righties. I believe we're playing a game up to 7 or 10. And, goalies as well can also be diligent with their rebounds after the player shoots, just as good habits for goalies to get into. But, the goalie's standing too deep, you definitely want to shoot the ball. If the goalie's out really far on you, one of the best things to do is just run right past the goalie and kind of shoot it around them on the far side. So give that a judge that. You will see here, you have water breaks as well throughout. They're listed at the bottom of some of the text pieces for some of the drills. So be wary of that. Every 15, 20 minutes or so, having a water break. But that's pretty much it for the first practice. We bring them in at the end, circle up at center floor. And I like to tell the story, the Haudenosaunee, oral tradition of the four-legged animals when they played the winged birds. So you can look that up online, but the moral of the story is that there's a place for everybody in this sport. Everybody has something to offer the game. No two players play the same way. And it was the little mouse who was transformed into the flying squirrel after being rejected from the animals team. The birds made him essentially a bird, and that was the player who scored the winning goal in the game. And so, could have been counted out because of their size or their look, but really had something to contribute. And that's what it's all about here. We want to bring as many people into the game, show them some value, treat them as individuals, holistically, try to give them what they need and support them. And, that's what's going to help us in the long term, bring people into the game and keep them here. So hopefully this practice is another thing that will do that, and giving you something organized and structured to run with. And again, tune in every Sunday, 8 p.m. We'll be going over the practices that I'm sending out on Fridays. So you'll have a couple days to digest them. And on Sundays, we can ask questions about them. And further, you can, tell me how things went the week before, and we'll also get to know a little bit more of what's expected in the upcoming week. So that's the idea. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and looking forward to keeping this thing rolling again for the next 10 weeks or so.